All right, let's just jump right into it. What if I told you that the next 5 years, between now and 2030, are going to be one of the most disruptive economic shifts of our entire lives? Seriously, the tech economy is being completely rebuilt from the ground up. And no, this isn't just another software update. We are talking about a whole new operating system for how business gets done. So let's build your personal blueprint for not just getting through this, but actually winning.
First things first, you have to understand that the rules have completely changed. I mean, they've been flipped on their head. For the past, decade? It was all about getting traffic, getting eyeballs. How many users do you have? That was the whole game. Well, that era is over. The new game, the one that's happening right now, is all about efficiency and automation. The winners of the next decade will be the ones who create real, measurable value by making businesses work better, faster, and smarter.
And that brings us to the new rules of tech. We're finally moving past this idea of digital transformation, which, let's be honest, was mostly just about taking our old paper processes and turning them into PDFs. Now we're in an era of intelligent reconstruction, and that's a huge difference. We're not just putting a digital layer on top of the old world, we are fundamentally rebuilding it with artificial intelligence baked into its very core. But of course, with all this change comes a ton of noise, right? Everyone is throwing around buzzwords. It's AI this, AI that. So how in the world do you separate the real, tangible opportunities from all the speculative hype? Well, to do that, you need a framework. You need a system to find some certainty in all this chaos.
And here's that system. Think of it like a weather forecast for technology. We're using a framework, inspired by Gartner's famous hype cycle, to sort these trends based on their actual real-world commercial viability. We are not interested in chasing every shiny new object. So the key here is we are only going to focus on the high and medium certainty trends. These are the technologies that are already past the peak of hype and are now quietly creating enormous value, the places where you and I can actually get involved and build something real.
So, what's our first high certainty trend? It's agentic AI. And I want to be really clear here, this is not just another buzzword. This is, without a doubt, the most immediate and impactful shift happening in technology right now. Okay, so what does that actually mean? We've all played around with generative AI. You type in a prompt, it spits out some text or a picture. That's a tool. Agentic AI is different. It's evolving from a passive tool into a proactive digital employee. You could literally tell an agentic AI, hey, plan and launch a full marketing campaign for my new product. And it would go off, do the competitor research, write the ad copy, design the visuals, and then schedule the posts. It can plan, execute, and even self-correct along the way. It's a true partner in getting work done.
And look, this isn't some science fiction 10 years from now kind of thing. Just look at this number. Job postings that mention agentic AI have exploded by 985% in just the last year. That's insane. The job market is screaming that it needs people who can manage and deploy these new digital employees. It's happening fast.
Now, let's move on to our second high-certainty trend, because it's directly connected. If you think of agentic AI as the brain of this revolution, then the new energy infrastructure, well, that's the body. It is the massive physical foundation that makes all of this possible.
And why is energy so critical? Just look at this number. By 2030, data centers are on track to consume a full 10% of all electricity in the United States. Think about that, 1/10 of the entire country's power grid. So the AI boom is, at its core, an energy boom. The real bottleneck for AI supremacy isn't just about who has the best algorithms, it's about who can get their hands on enough electricity. Okay, so we've identified these two huge high-certainty trends. But, knowing about them is one thing. The real question is, what do you do about it? How do you personally position yourself for this future? Let's break down 3 specific paths you can take. So here it is. This is your strategic playbook. We're going to look at your career first. Then we'll talk about entrepreneurship. And finally, we'll cover how you should be thinking about your assets and your investments. And while these are 3 separate paths, you're going to see they're all deeply connected. Let's start with your career. This quote right here just perfectly nails the shift. Your value in the future isn't going to come from just doing tasks. The goal is to become an orchestrator, the person who designs, manages, and directs these complex systems of both humans and AIs working together. You need to start thinking of yourself less like a musician in the orchestra and more like the conductor. So what skills does an orchestrator need? Well, it really boils down to these 3 things. First, process redesign. You have to get good at structuring work in a way that an AI can actually understand and execute. Second, deep domain expertise. Look, AI is an incredibly powerful tool, but it's useless without an expert telling it what problems to solve. That's you. And third, and this is maybe the most important, you have to take on that final 10% responsibility. That means handling the messy, human problems the AI can't, and ultimately being accountable for the results. Remember, the AI can't get fired, but you can.
Okay, path number 2, entrepreneurship. And listen, you don't need millions in venture capital to get in the game. This here is a super simple 7-day model. Day 1, find a really specific high-value problem in a niche you understand. Days 2 and 3, you stitch together a couple of existing low-code AI tools to solve it. Days 4 and 5, you build a quick demo, a minimum viable product. And by the end of the week, you're launching it as a simple monthly subscription. We're talking about things like an AI sales rep that automates outreach for small businesses, or a tool that does a first-pass review of legal documents for lawyers. You're the connector.
All right, and finally, let's talk about your assets, your investments. In a market that's changing this fast, a really smart approach is what's called the barbell strategy. Just picture a weightlifter's barbell, right? On one end, you have your heavy, safe, stable assets. On the other end, you have your much lighter but high-risk, high-reward bets. The whole point is that you completely avoid everything in the mediocre middle ground. And here's how we can apply that directly to the trends we've been talking about. On your defensive side, you have the picks and shovels of the AI gold rush. These are things like energy infrastructure ETFs, basically just a basket of energy stocks, or data center REITs, which is like owning a small piece of the actual physical buildings that house the cloud. These things have to exist for AI to work. Then, on your offensive side, you can make some smaller, targeted bets on things like leading AI software companies, or even traditional companies that are using AI really effectively to pull away from their competitors.
Okay, so we've covered the opportunities. But let's be real. Every gold rush is absolutely littered with traps. So we need to talk about what to avoid. Because if you're not careful, it's really easy to get caught up in the hype and make some big mistakes.
So, if you're thinking about starting an AI business, you need to stop and ask yourself this one very critical question. Is my business just a thin API wrapper? Because here's the cold, hard truth. If your only competitive advantage is that you're making a call to a big company's API, basically you're just putting a pretty face on their technology, then you don't really have a business. You have a feature. And that feature, your entire business, can be wiped out overnight by a single platform update from the company you depend on. You have to build a real defensible moat.
And for all the investors out there, history gives us a pretty clear roadmap of what not to do. Number 1, don't invest without a system. 2, don't let FOMO, that fear of missing out, drive you to buy things at the absolute peak of the hype. 3, avoid over-trading. You'll just let fees eat up all your capital. 4, manage your risk. Don't put more than, say, 20% of your assets in one super volatile thing. And 5, please remember that all technology goes through cycles. Don't mistake a temporary boom for a permanent trend.
Okay, let's wrap this all up. Let's bring everything together and build your final blueprint for 2030.
This table really summarizes our high-confidence outlook. For your career, the takeaway is clear. Focus on orchestration, not execution. For entrepreneurship, go deep into a specific niche. That's where you'll win. For your assets, the physical infrastructure, the grid, the data centers, that's the safest long-term bet. And it's also important to notice what has low certainty for us right now. Things like brain-computer interfaces. Super cool tech, but no real commercial value for individuals before 2030.
So when you walk away from this, what's your personal action plan? It's these 3 things. Number 1, de-risk your skills. Position yourself to be the person who directs the AI, not the one who gets replaced by it. Number 2, go vertical with your business. Don't try to boil the ocean. Solve one deep, specific problem for a niche audience better than anyone else. And number 3, focus on physical assets. Invest in the tangible things, the energy and infrastructure that this entire digital revolution depends on.
At the end of the day, the core message is this. The future is being rebuilt right now as we speak. So the only question left to ask is, are you going to be one of the architects, or are you just going to be a spectator? The choice is yours. Thanks so much for watching.